What up, Facebook Live family and friends? Elliot Andre from Connected Roots, the Headed Therapist, is back for yet another interview with a fabulous therapist in Boulder. Everyone, meet Erin.
Hi.
What's up, Erin? Sorry, everyone, for the long hiatus on Facebook Lives. I was out of the country for a while, but now I'm back and ready for more. So just you wait. What's in store? That rhymed. That was awesome. Anyhow, friends, family, Erin, if you could, let us know who you are. Introduce yourself. Let us know what sets you apart in the field of therapy. That would be amazing.
So my name's Erin Hernandez. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I went to Naropa University, and my specialties right now are trauma, depression, and anxiety. And let's see, what sets me apart from other people in my field is, I don't know, something that we're going to talk about today, working with trauma and dissociation. And in my opinion, what sets me apart is the way that I work with dissociation, actually.
Totally. I love that.
Yeah, I don't hear many people talk about it when I talk about it.
Sure. I mean, for all our Facebook friends and family out there, when Erin says dissociation, what do you think? Comment below and let us know. And then Erin's going to give us a whole shtick and spiel about what that is. So, Erin, if you could take it away and just let our viewers out there know what dissociation is, if you could define it in your own way, I think that'd be really helpful for our viewers.
Yeah, I actually pulled up some definitions from like the DSM and the Mayo Clinic.
Awesome.
And some of the symptoms that, and for everyone listening, the DSM is a diagnostic manual for mental health diagnoses. So it's what a lot of psychotherapists use, psychiatrists, other people in the mental health field. And for dissociation, some of the symptoms that you might have if you've ever felt dissociation or currently having symptoms of dissociation, you might have memory loss, a sense of being detached from yourself or your emotions, a perception of people and things around you not being real or feeling distorted. Sometimes people, I hear them say, like, they feel like they're in a cartoon or a video game, a blurred sense of your identity or who you are, inability to cope well with emotional or professional stress, could be like anxiety, depression. So those are some of the things that people might feel if they're feeling dissociated. I'll add one more definition of dissociation that I use in my practice specifically. So, okay. You know, when like we can feel connected to our body, right? Like we can feel what's going on in our body. And sometimes we feel numb in our body. Like sometimes when we get frightened, maybe we feel like maybe we're not feeling as much. Or after a traumatic event, we might not be as connected to our body. And what I like to say is that we're mind, body, and energy. And the energy that is us, which sometimes people will call this our spirit or our soul, it's held within the physical body.
Got it.
Yeah, sometimes when we dissociate, that energy kind of can rise up and not be in the lower part of the body as much, or it could be completely out of the body. And this can lead to, like, when people say, when that traumatic experience happened to me, I was watching myself from outside of my body.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's like an out-of-body experience is what you're describing. I mean, as much as, you know, what you just said and all that is totally, you know, valid and very concise to the point. It's like, if we're going to say it and put it in a box, we'll say maybe it's just out-of-body.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, really defining what that looks like. I think that's really helpful for people out there, because I know thumbs up out there, smiley face or hearts, whatever you see out there, viewers, if you felt that way, because I know a lot of us have, really, truly, and I don't think we've been able to put, you know, our fingers on what that may be like. So
yes, and And it can be on a spectrum,
Right.
right? Like I have some people say, well, I feel like I'm really up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like all my energy is just concentrated here. And when I'm like, hey, can you feel your feet? Can you feel your calves? They're like, not really. I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
like much is there. So it can be on a spectrum. Some people are like, I'm all the way out of my body. And some people are like, well, I'm hanging out right here.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I love that. I mean, it's putting things on a spectrum, I think, in the mental health world is so much more practical because
Yeah.
not everybody feels or functions the same way in a certain situation.
Right.
And I think what
Yeah.
you've just done for so many of our viewers out there and people out there in general is just normalize dissociation is real and that it happens and that everybody feels it differently in their own kind of space.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. And sometimes people can get really like when it's happening to them, well, sometimes people don't even notice it. It's so habitual.
Mm-hmm.
They've maybe been doing it since they were really young. And when I notice it a lot when people feel anxious or stressed out, when we really check in with the body, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm all up here and I feel really chaotic.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, and they're like, I've never noticed that before. So sometimes people don't even know that that's happening until we slow down,
Slow down,
yeah, because the nervous system gets so ramped up.
Mm-hmm.
And people, it's just kind of their habitual way of being sometimes.
Right.
Which is
it's
okay.
like status quo almost in some regards for some.
Yeah.
Who can't recognize unconsciously can't recognize what may be happening in any given moment. But
yeah.
I think you bring to light such an important aspect of this is that how connected our nervous system is to our mental health.
Yeah.
And if you could talk about that, from your own experience with working with people without disclosing too much, obviously, what that's like, because I feel like a lot of people out there really don't not that they don't understand, but don't really connect with this idea of, our nervous system and our mental health being connected. So if you could talk about that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really like the polyvagal theory. And the polyvagal theory talks about this other part of our nervous system that doctors and nurses and kind of the whole Western medical model hasn't been aware of for a really long time. And the polyvagal theory kind of adds in this social engagement nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're not too anxious, when we're feeling safe and comfortable, we can socially engage with people. And the social engagement nervous system is like the nerves that innervate our throats, our face, so control like
like some of those emotions. Yeah, okay. Or just expressions. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I love it.
And sounds like yes, exactly. Like how you're smiling and my interpretation and my nervous system is going, oh, Elliot's smiling. Like, I think I can relax. There's no danger here.
Wow.
And also our voices, when I hear your voice, so our nervous system reacts to voices that get into a range where we think there's danger. So for women, when we hear women's voices get a little more shrill, we might interpret that there's danger in our environment. And when men's voices get more loud and booming, we might interpret that there's danger in our environment.
That's unreal.
I know.
Had no idea. Wow.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And imagine like babies don't even have to think about that, right? So our nervous systems, we're being impacted even when we're children.
Yeah.
By those things.
I mean, I think, go on, please keep on speaking. I was going to say, it just, what you're describing to me, my mind just automatically goes to trauma. Fear, anxiety, and I don't really think about that, when we've been or worked with clients who have experienced that, like how much they interpret without us even really knowing.
Exactly. That's exactly when they walk in think about when we go and greet them for the first time in the waiting room or whatever, they immediately are looking at our face and listening to our voice. And also looking at their surroundings, our surroundings are, and also Stephen Porges, who is the founder of polyvagal theory.
Mm-hmm.
He says that also background noise can make us feel, so if there's a lot of background noise in our environment, it can make us feel like we're like, is there danger? Like we're checking out all the noise. Our nervous system gets a little ramped up because we're having to like monitor the background noise to make sure it's not dangerous. So that also contributes to our sense of safety.
I just think of the animal kingdom when you say that, because every time you're walking and you see like an animal and they kind of like go like that. It's like subconsciously. Their nervous system saying that there could be imminent danger or whatever. It's never like, oh, there's something exciting happening, right? It's like, it's like there's just danger, and there's danger all the time. And how do we get away from that?
And you're totally right. Like, I believe, I'm pretty sure about this, that we're the only animals with social engagement nervous systems. And like we do share some of our nervous system, like parts of our nervous system we share with reptiles and other mammals, but I think we're the only mammals with the social engagement nervous system. So it's funny that you say that. So it's like, animals aren't looking to socially engage with us when we're walking around. Like they're like, no, it's either danger or no danger.
Right.
Like you're saying.
Yeah. No, it's wild to think about that. And I don't know if you've experienced this before, but my mind keeps on going to working with people with auditory and more so auditory than anything, but like disabilities. Because like when somebody on the autism spectrum, for instance, walks in a room and they might have auditory or visual sensitivity, I feel like for them that in itself is just so overwhelming. And I don't know if you've experienced or worked with anybody like that, but for me, it just seems like that would even more so elevate or exacerbate like their nervous system being so much more in tune. Yeah.
And from what I've heard, like people that have like auditory processing issues or troubles can sometimes feel stimulated all the time.
Right,
because they're not, like they're just kind of like always stimulated either too much by their environment.
Totally. It's like their nervous system is always kind of heightened in that regard.
Totally. Cool. And now I think they're starting to have sensory rooms
definitely.
Like in schools to help help kids, teenagers, adults help their nervous systems chill out. Absolutely. They're feeling overstimulated.
100%. Stimulation room, we'll say. Something like that. I don't really know. It's been a while. I haven't been working with kids nearly as much these days.
I haven't either.
Let's say hey to Polly Siegel. What's up? How you doing, young lady?
Hi.
What's happening? Cool. Let's talk more about trauma now that we've gotten to this kind of talk of what our nervous systems and how our mental health are reacting to that. If you could give our audience out there just an idea of, trauma, dissociation, and how it's all linked to our mental health, in your opinion, I think that'd be really helpful for a lot of people out there.
I didn't talk about
get an idea. That'd be great.
Well, so I'll give a real life example of someone, actually a conglomeration of a lot of people that I work with and I have been working with. So how it can affect our mental health. So if we think about when we get stressed, when we get anxious about something or distressed, if our nervous system is on autopilot to start to dissociate, that can, one, make us more anxious, because if you think about it, we need to be present to be able to deal with our emotions.
100%.
And so it can make anxiety worse when we're not present to deal with situations, and to kind of like process through emotions. It can sometimes create depression, because if we're not present and we're not in ourselves to feel things fully, sometimes people feel like disconnected from their emotions and like they can't feel anything. So then that they feel depressed, like nothing, really matters in life, maybe, or they can't enjoy things. And also another thing that I've really found is it can affect our mental health and our overall emotional health, our physical well-being. Because if we think about it, when our energy, and we'll even make it can affect our spiritual selves as well. When our energy or our spirits are in our body fully, we're more available for physical healing. We're more available for emotional, mental healing. We're more available for connection.
Totally.
We're more available for interconnection, like being connected to ourselves. And why some people don't want to do that is because we also feel things more fully. Like we'll feel physical pain if we're in our bodies. We'll feel emotional pain. And that's like two sides of a coin. Not only do we feel pain more, but we're there and available and we can heal it better.
Yeah, it's just getting to that point where people want to experience all the negative of healing.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I know.
Because that's not easy.
That's how it feels. That's how it feels.
It's stressful. It's anxiety provoking. It's all of the above. But
I
guess we have to encourage our clients to do so. To really be open to getting better and getting help. It's just not easy.
Yeah, and it's like the darkness before the light.
Right.
It's like you kind of have to. I think that's why a lot of therapists will talk about themselves as guides, or because it's like they're guiding someone through this really dark period in their lives where it's all the negative side of healing, the difficult, the shitty part of healing, guiding them through to make it through to the light, where they can enjoy life.
I mean, I get that. I'm right there with you. I think as therapists, we've also experienced that ourselves in some ways, and to be able to pass that along to our clients, I think has been, it's definitely helpful to be able to empathize fully with them in that regard.
And to have someone say, hey, look, I know, like even in the beginning of therapy, to say, look, there might be a point where you start to feel worse before you feel better. And that's actually normal. And we're going to look for that. And I'm going to help you through it.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that, we as therapists are often tested to do. And I think it's something that if we can do it well, we can thrive, and provide amazing support to people. But it's definitely not easy. It's tolling and it's uncomfortable at times, and it's not fun. A lot of the time. Let's be real. Let's be real.
Yes. No, it's not fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's why we're here. I want to give people out there today some tangible skills, if you don't mind. If you have some that you could rattle off, or things that have worked for some or not for others. In a sense of maybe figuring out how to stay grounded within dissociation. Or how to kind of cope in those situations, or maybe thoughts of how to, work through some traumas, outside of the therapy room. I think that'd be really helpful for our viewers out there. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Don't mind.
Yeah. So to help them stay grounded, I'll give like two exercises.
Wonderful.
One is a kind of internal noticing the body exercises, and then one will be an external, like noticing the environment.
Wonderful.
And it's really important to note that for some people, especially people who dissociate on the spectrum of dissociate on that spectrum, that going to the body may not be the best thing to do because it might feel overwhelming. And so you might want to do that with a professional. But you can try it. And if it starts to feel a little overwhelming, just stop and try the external exercise that I'll give. So the first one, the kind of internal exercise, is just, sitting in a quiet place would be great if you can. Being out in nature would be good as well, if that's possible. So, and wherever you're sitting, just bringing your attention to your feet and wiggling them around. So like wiggling your toes.
I'm doing it right now.
Yes, me too. Actually, I do.
I knew it would both be.
And,
wiggling our toes. Okay.
Yes. And then just noticing like what your shoes feel like or your socks feel like on your feet. It's like, yeah, okay. And are my feet warm, cool, hot? And then just feeling my bottom on the seat, like wherever I'm sitting, just feeling my bottom on the seat, feeling my back in the chair. Yeah. Yeah. And then inviting our energy, we can call it energy, we can call it spirit or soul, like either all those are fine. Our energy doesn't respond well to force, but it does respond really well to invitation. And then just inviting our energy to drop down in the body. And if there's a place, like say I was feeling it up here, I would go to that place, bring my awareness to this place, and I would go, okay, please, you know, I'm there. Here's an invitation to drop down into the body and just notice it. It is so amazing how quickly people can do this exercise, actually.
I feel very relaxed right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to take a nap. I'll see you later. I love that. I think that's so tangible for people out there. So right. Yeah. I love that.
Okay. Awesome. So the second exercise is, so you can do the senses. So sight, sound, taste, smell, touch.
Right.
So we can do for sight, I might say, okay, what are 3 green things that I see right now? Okay, I see some leaves, I see some grass, and my tights are green. What that does is when our nervous system is activated, a lot of the our brainstem down here is kind of really activated. And what it does is it gets our logical brain up here working. And brings it more online. Instead of a lot of nervous system activation, it brings like our rational thinking brain more online. So that it's super simple. Then I can say, okay, what are 3 blue things that I see? Dot, dot, dot. So you can do that. And then I can go, okay, what do I hear? I hear birds. I hear Elliot.
Hard not to hear me.
Yeah.
So damn loud.
Yeah. I hear like I hear an airplane. Yeah. So it's just doing those things. And then with touch, you can say like, oh, I feel my clothes on my skin. I feel my shoes on my feet. I feel the chair underneath me. And then smell, you can do smells. So those are like, there's an external exercise to get you out of the kind of stress, nervous system activation. And then the more kind of like internal exercise to help you ground. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's tangible, right? Like you said.
Yes. They can do it. You can do it anywhere. And actually, I have done a lot of grounding exercises in my life to get more grounded. And because I practice them so much, I've gotten really good at them, which is really essential. If people are going to be doing these practices, they have to practice them almost every day would be great.
Right. It's not like a quick fix. Yeah, it's not a quick fix.
It's like exercising.
Right. Absolutely. But it's that stimulation in a different way.
Yes. Like so say I wanted to go run a marathon, I couldn't just go run a marathon. I wouldn't be prepared. Right. So if I'm going to bring myself down in a time of anxiety or stress, I have to practice before I'm actually in that moment of anxiety and stress.
Especially when you're like on the curve, like all the way at the top.
Yes.
How can you access skills or any type of logic when you're all the way up there?
You can't.
Which is the hardest part of it all.
But,
yes.
Totally.
If we could put what we just described, grounding, in this type of exercise, it's kind of like a distraction technique, right?
Yeah.
To
absolutely
allow ourselves to then be more present within ourselves.
Yeah.
Both of them, both external and internal, I'd say.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you asked about another thing. You said, and like how to heal trauma.
Yeah, please.
Outside of psychotherapy.
Yes,
so
yes. Talk.
So Stephen Porges, the guy who founded the polyvagal theory, actually talks about yogic breathing exercises as being, if you practice them, again, you have to practice like exercise, and what it does is it calms the vagus nerve. It calms the vagus nerve when we do deep breathing. It's like modulated breathing.
Where is that? The vagus nerve, or what is that, so people know what that is?
So the vagus nerve goes throughout our whole body. It kind of originates somewhere back here in our head. It innervates our face, our throat. It goes through our heart, our lungs. It goes through our belly. And then it even goes into some like of our digestive organs.
An important nerve.
Yes, it's throughout the whole body.
Okay.
Yeah. And it modulates our nervous system. So like activation to fight, flee, freeze, and also another part of it activates like rest, relaxation, and then also the social engagement. Like if we can be socially engaged.
Extremely important.
Yeah. And so when we do deep breathing modulation, it modulates that polyvagal nerve, and it helps the part that wants to fight or flee or freeze, it helps that to like calm down and brings our social engagement nervous system back online, or it can help to do that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
go on.
All wind instruments, because we have to modulate our breath to play them.
Wow.
He also says that. He says, like, so if you play a wind instrument, like practicing, because modulating your breath. And I don't know, I haven't heard him talk about singing, but I also wonder about singing.
I mean, that's modulating your breath in that regard.
Yeah, you have to, yeah.
Makes sense.
So those are ways to help with trauma, and yoga in general, not just because of the breathing, can help with nervous system. And there have been a lot of studies on yoga and trauma. Some stuff that I've done to help with trauma from my life. I saw a therapist and I do this myself now because I found it so helpful, but a practice called core synchronism.
Okay.
It's like it's a bridge between cranial sacral therapy, which is like working with the bones in the head, and also another therapy that's called polarity therapy, which is kind of like a subtle energy technique.
Okay.
But it works with the body and the nervous system, and it just helps relaxation. And so that I started doing that with therapy, and just my body was able to release traumas faster than ever.
Wow.
So sometimes people can, any kind of like body therapy that with someone they feel comfortable with, actually, that's so important. So core synchronism or cranial sacral therapy, or, massage and yoga. So things like that, all those things can be helpful.
That's awesome.
But I would definitely say for people to like not do it on their own, because we heal in connection, in relationship. Often when we are traumatized, it's in relationship. So there's so many traumas that happen in relationship, and we want to heal in relationship as well.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I think people don't realize sometimes, generally, how what you just said makes so much sense. I mean, realistically, like, healing together is really kind of something that I think we should all strive for in our own way, shape, or form, if we feel comfortable in doing so.
Sometimes it's people are they're having a lot of trouble having interaction with others, and that is totally okay. But if they can find that one person, or there's two people that they feel comfortable with, that's really good.
Definitely. I agree 100%. Yeah. I want to talk about trauma a little bit more before we wrap up.
Okay.
I've been hearing and reading a lot about this idea of little T's and big T's in trauma. And I don't know if you can speak to that or kind of explain to the viewers out there what the differences are, what that may look like for somebody tangibly in their own life.
Yeah. So I guess, like, when we think about trauma, when I think about trauma, trauma happens in a situation where our nervous system is overwhelmed to the point where it's been dysregulated, meaning that in times where we are safe and we're not in danger, it thinks that we are in danger, so it's not modulating correctly. And then maybe in times when we are in danger, there isn't a lot of safety around, it's not responding. So that's what I think. That's like basic trauma to me. Our nervous system has just gotten so overwhelmed, either over time, like there's been chronic stressors, abuse, neglect, things like that, war, immigrants or asylum seekers, like many repeated incidents. Or there's been one big thing: plane wreck, car wreck, abuse situation that was a one-time abuse or one-time assault, things like that. And like little T's, I would say I don't, in my practice, like talk about little T's and big T's as much. Because sometimes there can be a sense of like, oh, my pain. What I see in trauma survivors so much is like, my pain isn't as much as this other person's pain.
Hierarchy of struggles, kind of.
Yes, so much. And they're like, but, I'm not as bad as this other person. It's
right. Yeah.
Does that really matter, though? Because we all deserve healing.
Right.
And so, like I would say, like there are definitely little T's and big T's, and I don't talk about that in my therapy sessions because
I love that.
Yeah, but I might talk about it with my colleagues, like a big T or a little T, either situation or event. And yet, if they have trauma, their nervous system has been overwhelmed, whether we would call it a little T or a big T.
100%.
And so, yeah, I don't talk about it in therapy, like with clients as much, but maybe I would talk about it with colleagues.
I mean, I'm glad you're saying that because I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I feel like a lot of the reading that I've been doing has been bogus. Not bogus. Just.
Oh, no. What have you been reading? I'm curious. Maybe I'm not.
No. I agree that there shouldn't be a delineation between trauma is trauma, right? And everybody experiences it differently. So to categorize somebody who's saying little or big, I don't think it's fair. It does the client any justice to bring it in. So I just wanted to know your opinion and thought on it because I feel like as clinicians, some people refer to that.
Yes.
But realistically, it's just not really fair, realistic in any way, in my eyes.
Yeah, not in the therapy itself. Like I could see clinicians kind of talking about things.
Well, because we can put it in a box for communication with the clinician, right? Like, well, my client has this or doesn't have this, so this is how I can communicate about treatment. Yeah.
And again, we could talk about it like with our clients on a spectrum. Like, oh, you were in Vietnam for however long and you repeatedly bombed or repeatedly, and then we have a person over here who was in a car wreck once and they have, trauma or PTSD from that. And it's like, they're both trauma and maybe they're both having PTSD symptoms. But one is one event and one is a repeated, over time event. And, I've heard people talk about little T's and big T's before. And I think sometimes what I think people are talking about is like trying to distinguish between what has been traumatizing and what has been traumatizing and maybe over here, what has been anxiety provoking and didn't quite make it to full-blown trauma reaction.
Fair.
But yeah, I that's kind of my thoughts on it.
I love it. Thank you for being so communicative and informative about this topic, because I feel like we don't get to talk about it as much because I feel like a lot of people feel shame around it.
That's true.
And the whole reason and platform of doing a lot of these interviews, I've told people, is that I want to destigmatize this idea of that mental health is something that we don't need or don't talk about. So
yeah,
I really, really, truly appreciate you being here today with me.
Thank you, Elliot.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, Erin, if you could just kind of pitch yourself, let us know where we can find you, your website, phone number, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing with our viewers out there. I think that'd be really great.
Yeah, so my business is Luminous Ground Counseling, and my website is luminousgroundcounseling.com. And that's where people can find me. They can book free consultations online on my website. You know, people can contact me to see if we're a good fit to work together, or ask if I work with or specialize in what they're wanting help with. And I'm in Boulder, Colorado. And I'm not sure. Yeah, my phone number is 720-443-0705. And yeah, on my website is my email as well. That's probably the best way to get me. And yeah, I agree with you a lot, Elliot. I like destigmatizing mental health support, and really enjoy helping people realize that we're all humans and humans struggle, but we also have the ability to heal and feel really good even though we struggle.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Well said. Thank you, Facebook Live family and friends. The Headed Therapist is out. Again, Erin, appreciate you. We will talk to you soon. Peace.
Yeah, thank you.